Amen. I choose verse 9 from the book of Leviticus, chapter 26, as our main text for today. It reads, I will look on you with favor and make you fruitful and increase your numbers, and I will keep my covenant with you. The theme for today, according to the English IPRA or the International Bible Reading Association, is Walking with Humanity, God's Abundant Goodness. God reminds us today that He looks on us with favor when we walk with love, respect, and care for others. His promise is not just for one person, but for all families, communities, and nations. As we gather here for the Pacific Internet Governance Forum 2025, we are walking with humanity by discussing how to make the internet safe, fair, and helpful for our people. This is one way we show love and serve others in today's world. Let us use this opportunity to be fruitful, not just in technology, but in kindness, in listening, and in sharing wisdom. God's goodness is abundant, but when we walk together, He blesses our journey. May our discussion during this forum be fruitful, transformative, and based on respect and understanding for each other. Amen. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessing of life and wisdom, and for gathering us at this Pacific Internet Governance Forum. Thank you for the different callings you have placed in our lives, and for using us to serve your purpose. We are grateful for your word and the Holy Spirit who guides our decision. Thank you, Jesus, for your salvation freely given to us all. Lord, bless the Prime Minister of Samoa and everyone participating in this forum. Forgive our sins through the precious blood of our Jesus Christ. In the name of the Lord and Savior, we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor, for the uplifting devotion and inspiring words this morning. We can only wish for Heavenly Father to continue to bless you and your ministry for preaching the holy word of the Lord. Ole nei avanoa o te walau tuai me le nganga Fainuulelei i le tātou launga ami o le nei taiao, i le ofionga i le saofapito, le ofionga le tamaitai pāle mia o le fionga. Malotu tō tasi o Samoa, Honorable Fiame, Naomi Mataafa.
Ua whamalo I lausunga le taitai o sauninga. O lea ua whaifol nā loa I le tua mawhawhiri manae. Ia ua ave ai lausunga mo tātou sui. Ua le tāulanga momoli. Ma le tātou whasangi I le atua. Ua ulia ma le manuia I le nei tai au fau. O le a tauto ia whamaene o teilu loto. O tau sama whai ngā ua o lea o mai au na pailango. E le whafonga o le aso. A wale pa ia o Samoa, ma sui a wai mai le Pasifika. Ma le laulangi atoa. Ia, tainane ulu o mtanga wenga ma le mamalu o poto mai. A wale tala aloa ia. O le whanatanga lo noono a le Pacific Internet Governance Forum. Lea ua whatauteia. Pacific Islands Chapter of the Internet Society Organizing Committee. Ile ngalulwe fatasi male malo Samoa, male Samoa IT Association. Ia o te manatu o no lea e whilungia, le totele o le tātou mafutanga, ia o le a whaawawai, le wholasanga i le whaperitania. Reverend Malotau, Lafolafoga, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Chief Executive Officers, esteemed speakers and distinguished guests, the Pacific Internet Governance Forum Board and Organizing Committee, ladies and gentlemen. Talofa and warm Pacific greetings. Welcome to Samoa. It is with great honor and pleasure that I speak to you on this historical day that marks the 6th Pacific Internet Governance Forum that is being facilitated by the host organization, the Pacific Islands Chapter of the Internet Society Organizing Committee, in partnership with our local Samoa IT Association and the Samoan government. This year marks, again, another milestone for internet governance in the Pacific Islands, where different stakeholders come together to discuss the importance of governing the internet we have today to maximize its benefits and to reduce the risks to our island nations. I acknowledge the presence of our Pacific Island peoples who gather here to contribute and learn from these deliberations. And I would like to thank the board of the Pacific Island Chapter of the Internet Society for choosing APIA as the host for the Pacific Internet Governance Forum 2025. You are very much welcome to the beautiful shores of our Samoa. Last week, during the Global Internet Governance Forum in Oslo, Norway, we saw and heard discussions and deliberations on how digital transformation can empower communities, bridge divides, and foster innovation. These conversations are not just global, they are deeply local, and nowhere is this more evident than here in the Pacific. By linking our regional insights with global frameworks, we ensure that the Pacific is not just heard, but is leading in the areas like sustainable connectivity, indigenous digital rights, and resilient infrastructure. The theme for the Pacific Internet Governance Forum 2025 is digital inclusion and safety, which is very relevant to the Pacific Islands as we embrace the beauty of fast internet to foster development, but yet face the risk of cybercrime and irrelevant social media content that are likely to hinder the values we have cherished for hundreds of years in our islands. Digital inclusion means ensuring that our women, our youth, our persons with disabilities, and our elders can all benefit from the transformative power of technology. At the same time, online safety is paramount. Cyberbullying, misinformation, and digital exploitation are real threats that require coordinated national and regional responses. I believe that these 2 days will be full of discussions among the different stakeholder groups, including government, civil society, the private sector, academia, development partners, and our fellow neighbors. For the first time in the Pacific Internet Governance Forum history, we have the Pacific Youth Internet Governance Forum happening right here as well. I would like to acknowledge our final year ICT university students from across the Pacific who are here with us. which indicates that the future of internet governance in the Pacific Islands will be in good hands in the years to come. Our Pacific governments have the responsibility to embrace the internet so that the benefits to our people are maximized with minimal harm. The Pacific Islands must be part of any international and regional reviews to make our voices heard, especially on the importance of a multi-stakeholder approach to internet governance. This forum will be full of information sharing with rich outcomes that will inform digital transformation strategies in the Pacific Islands. Let us continue to build a Pacific that is digitally empowered, globally connected, and locally resilient, where every voice counts in the shaping the internet we want. I wish you all the best in your deliberations. And now I declare the Pacific Internet Governance Forum of 2025 officially open. Soifua me Emmanuel.
Ele manatu o leua mapu sa sanga le utunga o le vai nei maunga manu au sala tu sai foi mo le sau noanga ma tango fie le fionga tamai tai palimia ia o fai le ma fi sanga malu e fa pe anto mata o foi fa mo mo le tatu asosi o le mato talo ia pulpule tele tatu tapau sile langi foi pe malo se tino ia me se foi a tiute fai va fe ngai foi le fionga ia mo le to fa lo loto o le utanga mau ia wa lava ia fe ngai ma to finga tono tatu malo o le nei Manoa ia o le atu o tulo le Manoa i le tai fono fo ia le paanga le Pacific Internet Chapter of Internet Society lo fionga le ota mo lo sau no
Aftaile fongale o kalame molo o Manoa. Ia mo na o sa o le va mo tapuile tapu tupo fanta sa mo le va fili ma le fu e lavi. Ai o taton foi. O le pa ia lava mai le vau e o le fa vau. Ele nga fatau di maina so fatau va. E sue lau sungal fai lotu. Lau fionga tamai tai palmia ma lotu to tasio Samoa. Lau fionga Fiame Dr. Naomi Mataafa ai mesele mamaldu wasau nei. Ia taluai o le foi filongia le potopotonga nei tai au. Lau whaonga ina le ngana Britania. As the chair of the Pacific Island Chapter, Internet Society, I would like to Pacific greetings to you all. With the Pacific Islands Chapter of Internet Society, we have 435 members. I just want to brief and give you information what is the Pacific Islands Chapter. We have some pioneers, we have some those who paved the way that they are present here. We have Savenara Vore, we have Maureen as well, Pua, they're all from the Pacific, they are here. These are the people and the board who developed and paved a way in the Pacific, in the Internet Society, to be recognized, the Pacific, in this platform. So for your information, Pacific Islands Chapter of Internet Society is one of the largest chapters of the Internet Society globally as mandated. We have Polynesians, Micronesians, and Melanesians in this chapter. Also, PICISOC is one of the at-large society, or ALS, of Abralo. I would like to acknowledge that. It's an Asia-Pacific region at-large organization as one of the ICANN communities. Sabe is here as a representative of the Pacific in the ICANN. So PICISOC, or the Pacific Islands Chapter Society, participated in this global platform. Last week, we have the global IGF in Norway, and we voiced the importance of the multi-stakeholderism in our shores due to our geographical locations, economy, and people. Our Madam Prime Minister mentioned the whole event, the importance of we have this event, Internet Governance, because we are custodians of the Internet Governance. We are the custodians of the internet and technology in our shores. So we have to take the responsibility and accountable of any actions come along. So from the global IGF last week, we believe that the truly inclusive digital future is one where everyone can participate safely and confidently. I know our Pacific IGF, we have our chair here, Mr. Andrew Molivurae. He is from Vanuatu. Will give us a brief history of Pacific IGF and remembrance some of our Pacific people. Those are pioneers who paved the way of a Pacific Internet Governance as we are today. Lo Fionga, Mr. Andrew Molivurae.
Reverend Malotau, Honorable Fiame Dr. Naomi Mataafa, Prime Minister of Samoa, the PICISOC Board, distinguished guests, students, ladies and gentlemen. Talofa lava and good morning, my Pacific family. Thank you so much, Honorable Prime Minister, for such an inspiring message that you have set as a tone for us for the next 2 days. It is with great pleasure and honor that I stand before you here today in Apia to say a few words. I would like to thank and praise God for choosing this week to be the Pacific IGF Week. Honorable Prime Minister, I would like to thank you on behalf of the Pacific IGF community for your presence today. Out of your very busy schedule, you chose to be here with us today. Please accept our sincere gratitude. I would also like to thank the Samoa Information Technology Association and the Samoa government for the work you have done in preparing the logistics for this week. We cannot thank you enough. President Joe Benz and your team, please share our acknowledgement to your members. The National University of Samoa, the Pacific IGF Committee would also like to thank you for sharing your space with us this week. It is the perfect venue for our meeting this week. Last but not least, I want us to give a big round of applause to the local host for a very special welcome ceremony yesterday. We did not expect such an honorable welcome that made all of us feel so special. Yes, made us so special and very much at home. Vavitai lava. Before we go any further, I would like to before we go any further, I would like to pay tribute to our unsung heroes, as Sarai has mentioned, of internet governance in our region who have left us. Late Salanieta Tamani Kaiwani Waimwaro, a strong advocate for IGF and was MAG member of the Global IGF. She was interested in having a Pacific Youth IGF, which this week we have now achieved for the first time in the Pacific IGF. Late Manu Samoa Antoni Saga, who was our Pacific hero, who was from the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology in the Samoan government. Late Manu Mau Oktevi, our Pacific hero, who hailed from this land, and was a great leader in our community, especially in her role as CEO of CSL. Late Donnie De Freitas, who was instrumental in the growth of Pacific IGF when he managed the Regulatory Resource Center at the USP in Fiji a few years ago before his passing. He led the Pacific IGF in Port Vila in 2017. Late Georgina Kiele, who was a vibrant leader hailing from PNG and was executive manager, cybersecurity and government digital standards at the PNG Department of Information and Communication Technology. A vocal advocate for women in ICT and was instrumental in implementing the PNG National Cybersecurity Policy of 2021. Let's give them a big round of applause. We cherish their contributions in the Pacific Islands and may their memory be a blessing. Pacific IGF is a sub-regional IGF, which is part of the UN Global IGF. Its mandate includes fostering the sustainability, robustness, security, stability, and development of the Internet, facilitating information exchange and best practices, and identifying emerging issues and bringing them to the attention of relevant authorities and the public. The IGF does not have a decision-making power. There are a number of regional IGF, like the Asia Pacific regional IGF and national IGFs around the world. This is the 6th Pacific IGF after the inaugural meeting that was held in 2011 in New Caledonia. After COVID-19, this is the 3rd consecutive IGF we have had. The Pacific IGF could not have been possible without our partners who have been faithful in supporting the event financially. And I want to acknowledge these organizations. The Australian Domain Name Authority, auDA. Bruce Tonkin is the CEO who is here. Thank you, Bruce. InternetNZ, and we have Vivien. Thank you, Vivien, for your support and a continuous support. We have the European Commission, who are not here with us, unfortunately, but we want to thank them for the support they're giving us. The Asia Pacific top-level domain, also not here, but they are part of our sponsorship. Not to mention our local sponsors who have given much time and resources to support this event. The National University of Samoa, who has provided this room and many other things like our communications channels. Thank you. the Vodafone Samoa, CSL, Samoa Submarine Cable Company, Taula, BSP, Samoa Commercial Bank, National Bank, Sky Eye, Urban Tech, Greenology, Samoa Limited, WebSafe Samoa, Top Tech. Other organizations who have support the PacIGF this week. The APNIC training that we are having. The Australian government through the Department of Infrastructure and Communication. The multi-stakeholder group meeting led by Paul Tommy. The Pacific CCTLD Forum that is being supported by auDA. And the New Zealand NetSafe workshop that is happening on Friday. Last but not least, ISOC, Sohini, thank you for being here with us as well and for the support you're giving to this forum. I would also like to acknowledge our speakers and our moderators who will play the key role in the PacIGF this week. With these remarks, I wish you all the best in this forum as you deliberate through the rich agenda that we have for the next 2 days. Pavetai lava.
Thank you, Chairman Andrew and Leota, for your kind remarks and also for acknowledging those pioneers of Pacific IET who paved the way for us where we at now. And now we have come to the end of our official program. Just wanted to acknowledge a special acknowledgement to the Vice Chancellor of the National University of Samoa and the National University here for coming on board and have this tremendous support in providing the venues for us. And I hope our guests from overseas enjoy the kind hospitality of our people and also had an excellent experience yesterday with the AWA ceremony. I hope your wallet is still full for the next one, no joke. And however, we will have a photo session in front of here. So the Prime Minister and the table here will sit in the front and we have a photo and then we break for morning tea. I just wanted to conclude by a quote from a fellow Internet Society, Muteki Cliff Akapa from the African region of the IGF within our email forum. The IGF is more than an annual event. It's a global platform where voices from the grassroots to the global converge and where conversation often becomes action. It's also a timely reminder that multi-stakeholder model is not just a governance preference. It's a lifeline for inclusion, transparency, and trust in the digital age. So my challenge for you, brothers and sisters from the Pacific, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far and further, we go together. Once again, Pavetai lava.
the plenary session. I would like to welcome, I would like you to join me in welcoming our plenary speakers and who are here. We have three of them here. We have Vivien from InternetNZ, Bruce Tonkin from CEO of auDA, and also we have a representative from ISOC, Sohini. So I would like them to come to the front and sit here while we proceed with the plenary. In the plenary today, we will have probably 4 speakers. One will join us virtually from APTLD. So thank you. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Vivien, who is the CEO of InternetNZ. Thank you, Vivien, for being here with us, and thank you for the support. Please, the podium is yours.
Kia ora, way from Aotearoa, New Zealand. What a pleasure to be here in Apia. It is really quite amazing to be here. And I think the reason why it's amazing is because for the first time in my history with Internet New Zealand, we're talking about things Pacific here in an island nation of the Pacific. And that feels so important for the way forward for our conversations about internet governance in and across the Pacific and between us all, that we are here. And as I've been saying hello to people and asking where they've travelled from, I'm reminded how complex travel is in the Pacific and how expensive it is, and how many stops people make getting from where they've started to here. So I want to acknowledge the travel people have done and remind ourselves. It kind of reminds me of the importance of the internet in terms of that connection being ongoing, because this is amazing that we can come together. It's exciting. I wanted to acknowledge the Honourable Prime Minister's speech this morning, and in particular, the way she presenced what is so important to us who work in internet governance, not being kind of seduced into thinking it's all about the content or even the infrastructure. How often have we finished up talking about undersea cables? But, you know, that middle layer of the internet that we're also focused on, the protocols and the policies that inform the way the internet works, and which are so critical to the internet that we build for the future. So it's my real pleasure to be here. I wanted to welcome everybody and thank the Samoan community for hosting us. It feels really important that the Pacific IGF is rooted and grounded in these Pacific island nations. So with that, have a great conference.
Thank you, Vivien. Next up would be Bruce. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm very pleased to be here, and again, thank the organisers of the Arbor ceremony yesterday. That was a very special experience for all of us. Internet governance, my background is more in the domain name industry, and internet governance and the Internet Governance Forum I see is much broader than that. So when we talk about the internet infrastructure, we tend to think of switches and routers and telecommunications cables. A layer a little bit above that is the naming system and the numbering system. But what most people as consumers experience are really the internet applications. So the social media applications, the websites, the search engines, and now increasingly sort of AI tools like ChatGPT. And I think the challenge for that is then what's the right way to agree some rules and some principles of behaviour in using those applications. And that's a common challenge for all of us. And certainly in this region, we're conscious of lack of internet access for people in remote areas. While Australia has got very good access in the capital cities like Melbourne and Sydney, it's a very big country, and there's large parts of the country where we have the same internet access issues that people experience here in the Pacific region. Internet resilience, sort of being able to protect the infrastructure from natural disasters. Again, Australia, we're just as susceptible to things like hurricanes or cyclones. We get earthquakes and other things. You probably have less susceptibility to bushfires, but that's the other thing that we have in addition to some of the natural disasters in this region, and sort of building the infrastructure that's resilient to that. And then finally, I was hearing yesterday that a lot of country code managers, for example, struggle to keep good staff. The people that we have are all in high demand, and we have the same issues in Australia as well. And we find it very hard to recruit people with those skills. You have to train them, and we're starting to put a lot more effort into training and building a bigger pool of people that have the skills in managing the internet applications, but also being able to contribute to internet policy discussions. When I discuss the challenges, the unique thing in the internet infrastructure world is the use of multi-stakeholder processes to address those. Most of the internet infrastructure is not run by government or not solely run by industry. Even not-for-profit organisations run parts of the internet. So the internet infrastructure layer has always had a combination of government, private sector, not-for-profit communities, universities, and even just individual technical people running parts of the internet. And that philosophy of that multi-stakeholder group to come up with the rules and regulations that's applied to the internet engineering standards is also how we like to approach some of the challenges around the policy area, particularly in the areas of cybersecurity or privacy or online safety, that it's really a shared responsibility of all of us that operate parts of the system to do our bit to ensure that users are protected both in terms of their privacy and also in terms of their safety. So the focus that we're putting is .au is in two areas in terms of our sort of community work. One is education and training. So we're setting up a branch of the Asia Pacific Internet Governance Academy. We ran it for the first time in Australia last year. We're planning to run another one of those next year, probably around February next year. It's really sort of building a pool of people that understand internet policy. So it's internet governance training. And then the other initiative that we have is working with different types of underserved people in Australia. And they kind of broadly in 5 categories. We look at elderly people, we look at youth, we look at disabled people and how they access internet services. We look at Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Australia. And we also look at people that are outside of the cities in rural and remote locations. And we provide funding for people in those communities to build projects to use the internet to help people in that community. So those are really our sort of 2 broad areas of focus. And we're very pleased to hear what other people are doing in a similar way in this region. So I hope you all have a good next couple of days. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Bruce. We'll have next is Sohini So Sohini is the community engagement and manager at the ISOC APAC region. Thank you, Sohini.
Good morning and talofa everyone, and thank you, Andrew, for the introduction. I am very pleased to be here today, and I would like to sincerely thank the organizers, sponsors, and the local host of this event. I would also like to commend the Pacific Island Internet Society Chapter, or PICISOC, for consistently providing a platform for the community to come together and discuss internet governance and other internet-related issues. I know the Internet Society has popped up a lot in different conversations here and there, so I would like to share a little bit about who we are and what we do as an organization. So at the Internet Society, our work is guided by a shared vision that the internet is for everyone. And together we must ensure that it remains a positive force for society. This belief also underpins our 2030 strategy, which the Internet Society Board of Trustees adopted. It lays out our 5-year vision with two strategic goals in mind. One, that people everywhere have access to affordable, reliable, and resilient internet. And secondly, that people everywhere have an internet experience that is safe, secure, and protects them online. To bring this vision to life, I would like to share a message that our CEO, Sally Wentworth, often highlights with her team, one that truly captures the heart of our work and our commitment to a people-first approach. And it's that we must remember that every encrypted connection helps someone's private information, helps protect someone's private information. Every new internet exchange point adds resilience to ensure that a business stays online. And every community network that we build unlocks opportunity for a child or a family in that community. And while our work involves technology, ultimately, it's about making people's life better. And in particular, we are committed to supporting local communities through our 2030 strategic programs. Our 5-year strategy also prioritizes mobilizing financial and technical resources to grassroots organizations and initiatives that empower local communities, including indigenous populations, displaced people, and women-led enterprises. And we know that we cannot do this alone. So we look to you to join us, and we rely on your conversation to ensure that we are the voice that the internet needs. With these priorities in mind, we also understand that it's essential that the voices of the Pacific community are heard and that we work together to shape the future of the internet. We firmly believe that the Pacific plays a critical role in shaping internet governance on the global stage, and issues such as connectivity gaps, affordability, and resilience to natural disasters are not peripheral concerns. They must be central to the global internet agenda. As we look ahead, 2026 will be the first year of putting our 2030 strategy into action, and we recognize that there is still much for us to learn about the Pacific's unique context. That is why we want to ensure that our priorities and engagement in the region is shaped by your experience, your needs, and your aspirations. We want to listen, learn, and work alongside you on initiatives that truly make a difference and unlock the opportunities that the internet offers to your communities. To stay connected and engaged with the Internet Society, one simple way is to join our Pacific Island Internet Society chapter and also the broader Internet Society community. Here you can meet like-minded friends from the Pacific and around the world, participate in internet-related activities, and make your voice heard on the issues closest to your heart. Together, we can build a stronger and more inclusive internet for all. And before I conclude, I would also like to introduce my colleagues with me here today. Warren Finch, who is our IXP development expert. We also have Maureen Hilliard, who's not in the room, but she's around, and she is a trusted member of our board of trustees. And Yes, I look forward to contributing and learning from the rich discussions at this forum. And I hope to see many of you at the upcoming ISOC at social event tomorrow at 6 p.m. It will be held at the NUS Fale. Hope I pronounced that correctly. And thank you all. And I wish you a productive and enjoyable time here. Whawhetai telelava.
Thank you, Sohini. ISOC has a booth downstairs, so feel free to talk to her down there. Last but not least, we have Bafana, who is the General Manager of APTLD, who will be speaking to us remotely. Thank you, Bafana. It's over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Talofa, and very good morning. Thank you for having me remotely. And APTLD is very proud to be part of the PacIGF. And we also very proud to have 78 members, including 47 ordinary members. And I see, and I'm glad to see quite a few of you here today. And this is quite a very modest number comparing to your 435 members that is highlight. And that's a remarkable growth, and congratulations on the achievement, and that reflects how your community actually expanding and how important it is for the internet governance and also the digital cooperation in the Asia Pacific. For APTLD, the Pacific sub-region and Australia is actually the among of our top members. We have 14 CCTLD, and allow me to lead out our member, including the American Samoa, of course, Australia, .cc, .cs, Fiji, New Caledonia, Nauru, also New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Palau, Solomon Island, Tokolo, and Samoa. And many of the Pacific members, including Australia, InternetNZ, Papua New Guinea, American Samoa, CC, and other members, among the most active members. So thank you so much for your contribution. And like many of the speakers had mentioned, including Vivien, Bruce, the CC community, we really very much welcoming the capacity building, and including APTLD. We also listening to our members, and among those are the capacity buildings and how we actually together exchange knowledge. And in the Asia Pacific regions, our region is continue to be stable growth, actually, and the renewal number of the domain names comparing to the Europe continue to rise. And APTLD would very much willing to be happy to assist our members, and please let us to us. And we are remain too committed, and we also have the Internet for All statement. And we definitely would continue to working with you all and the members, how we can actually deliver that Internet for All statement and successfully have the inclusions and also the other activity throughout the years. As I'm the last speaker, so everything probably had already been said before me. And so last but not least, I would like to once again continue to support and also congratulate all of the participations, and wish you all the successful event, and looking forward to participating online. And after this event, for APTLD, we also have our events coming up in Serbia, Belgrade from September 8 to 11. So do join us online or in person. I know that it's quite far away from the Pacific Islands, but with the internet, we're all connected. So let's keep this, ongoing discussion. So thank you.
Thank you, Bafana. That brings us to the end of our opening plenary. Bafana, unfortunately, we cannot give you anything because you are remote, but we have a little gift for our 3 speakers here. So please accept our sincere thanks for being part of the plenary session. Thank you. So we will continue to proceed. I will now hand over to Crystal, who will lead the next session. So thank you, Crystal.
Oh, good. All right. Good morning, everyone. All right. Firstly, just a bit of introduction. I'm Crystal Kewe from Papua New Guinea. I currently serve on the board of the Pacific Islands chapter of the Internet Society as vice chair, and I have this opportunity to moderate session 2 of today's event. So talofa lava, everyone. Warm greetings to all our Pacific brothers and sisters joining us both here as well as digitally. We welcome you all to the Pacific Islands chapter of the Internet Society. Sorry, we welcome you all to the Pacific Internet Governance Forum. So in this session, we're going to talk about, the theme is on inclusive technologies for a resilient, sustainable, and equitable Pacific. Over the next 90 minutes or so, we aim to explore the multifaceted world of inclusive technologies, from advancements in assistive tech and agricultural innovations to the critical role of cybersecurity in our region, especially around critical economic sectors like fisheries. We have the privilege of 3 distinguished speakers who will be speaking to us today to share their expertise. Before I introduce them, I'd like to call them up. Can I have Letitia Masea, Sakaio, Manoa, and Swaran Ravindra to join us for this session, please? And then I will introduce them. I don't see Swaran in here. Oh, there she is. Okay, all the way at the back there. Great. Please welcome our speakers. Take a seat there. All right, I'll start with Swaran, just an introduction on our speakers, and then I'll call them up to do their presentations. So our first speaker, Swaran Ravindra, she's not a new face here by any means. Swaran is a principal and senior instructor at Fiji's National University's National Training and Productivity Center. She's a prominent ICT educator and a PhD candidate whose research in assistive technology focuses on digital inclusion for people with special needs. Swaran is also the president of the Software Foundation Fiji and a Pacific Woman in ICT trainer for PICISOC, bringing a wealth of academic and industry experience to our discussion. Today, she will be presenting on 2 topics: assistive technologies and agriculture 4.0, digital innovation for sustainable farming in the Pacific. What I'll do is we'll have Swaran present first, then we'll have Sakaio and Letitia present. They will do a joint presentation, and then we'll go back to Swaran because Swaran has 2 presentations she'll do. So I'll like to call up Swaran to do a presentation on assistive technologies. Thank you.
Lafolafoga, Nisambula Vinaka, Muliagatele, Faxia, and warm Pacific greetings to each and every one of you. And when I said that last phase, I'm actually trying to hide the ones that I probably might not remember. So it is my pleasure to speak at Pacific IGF in Samoa, and this is a beautiful, wonderful country. And I'm thinking, why didn't I come here earlier? So first of all, kudos to the team for putting up this great show. So if we can have a round of applause for them, please. Okay, so as you may have heard in the bio, I am, in fact, by profession, an educator, an academic, and more particularly an industry instructor. I am a trainer, right? So I would prefer an engaging session. So please remember, this is not just my session. I'm not here as a keynote speaker, as a lecturer who's just going to impart knowledge to you and walk out. I do understand that this room is filled with lots of great information, lots of knowledge, and the whole reason why we speak about multi-stakeholderism in the Pacific, especially in the IGF spaces, is because we understand that we have our strengths, we also have our limitations. So please, while I'm speaking, if there's somebody who would like to give us their perspective, or if you'd like to share your perspective, or share some challenges, I'll be happy to speak to you about those, right? Okay, so is there anyone here who can tell us what the theme for PacIGF 2025 is? Sarai's got some chocolates for you from Norway. Anyone? Really? Anyone? Fellows? I can see two of them. This means you haven't been listening since the morning. Anyone here? No, PICISOC members are not allowed. I've got some kava from Fiji. Now? Eleanor? Can we give her a mic, please?
Digital inclusion and online safety in the Pacific.
Eleanor. Okay, so digital inclusion and online safety in the Pacific. Thank you very much. So everything that I will be talking about, this is actually a very small, if you look at it, it sounds like a very small theme, but it impacts everybody and everyone in our Pacific, right? So there are two main topics that I wanted to speak to you about today. I won't be showing you any PowerPoint presentations because I would appreciate if we look at each other, when we speak, right? Okay, so the very first chapter of my PhD thesis is on trying to ascertain the type of inclusive technology that would resonate very heavily with our people, right? So just to give you a little bit of background, I am not a medical doctor by far. Also, I am not a special education teacher. I'm just another ICT woman who feels that I've got a bag of tools and techniques, and I've got a network of brilliant people who can get together and create some realistic solutions to the real world Pacific-centric problems we have. Okay, so I started my PhD journey with my very first chapter being, I'll read out the title to you, a low-tech assistive tool for the inclusion of persons who are deaf and hard of hearing. So if I could just throw some statistics to you. Does anybody here know the percentage, the statistics of our persons with disabilities in the Pacific? You can even tell me about your own country. It's perfectly fine to say, no, I don't know, right? If you knew everything, I would be without a job. No? Okay, so I'll give you Fiji stats. the last census report that we had in Fiji, the 2017 one, it stated that 13.7% of our population in Fiji live with at least one or more functioning disability, and we're counting from persons who are 3 and above. And I think it goes without saying that we still have some stigmas and some limitations around the conversations of inclusion. And many times we see that until and unless it's happening at home, until and unless it's, you have an issue that's happening right at home, your children, your spouse, your family, your friends, many times we don't bother. So today my plea is to ICT professionals. There is so much that we can do. And for that, I wanted to share some of the findings of my paper. Okay. So this paper started off with, basically, I met some wonderful professionals who were working in the area of inclusion. And what I found out was, after surveying 50 persons who were deaf and hard of hearing, we were just trying to ascertain what were the access like in terms of, access to citizen-centric services. If you are going to, for example, FNPF, if you're going to the banks, if you're going to any of the ministries, if you want to get into mainstream education, basically anything which we, say is a fundamental human right and a right as per the Constitution of Fiji. So we were basically just trying to ascertain what is the access level like. And you would be shocked to know it wasn't very pleasing. Right? Many people who are deaf and hard of hearing say that we find it difficult to access all mainstream, all sorts of mainstream sectors, be it education, right? Or whether it be education, whether it be opportunities for work, whether it be going into offices, government offices, right? So the approach we took here was basically, just give me one moment. Okay, so we did surveys to find out what exactly are they finding limitations in, which areas exactly are they finding limitations in. And the results actually were quite shocking. So I'm not going to give you statistics here because I've already told you a staggering statistic, right? 13.7. Majority of the persons who were surveyed, and I'm speaking in this case 50 persons who are deaf and hard of hearing, they told us that they have around 20 to 30% access only. And even that was to those who probably had someone at home who was really supporting them in getting, getting through the education system, or maybe they knew sign language, okay? But majority of them said that they have absolutely no access. Absolutely no access. So let's put these figures out in hard facts. It might not sound necessarily benevolent, but the fact is they will end up in an old people's home. And that is a trend I've noticed. I've got academic work to prove that this is the fact, right? So what we did, we introduced a software, a system, which teaches parents, teachers, employers, family members, anyone, even if basically someone who, it is targeted for someone who does not understand or has never been exposed to any sort of assistive tools, right? It's a very simple system that was introduced to teachers, and they went through the system. Basically, it sort of self-teaches you about sign languages at a very basic level, so you can have some basic family conversations at home, right? And after we introduced that system, we sort of, it was introduced slowly, and then it transitioned into the school system. It took us about 1 year, and we realized that the inclusion rate increased. Now, again, this is not a very high-tech solution. This was just for us to test our waters, to be honest. Creating assistive technologies is really not a cheap, a reasonable amount of money that you'll be spending. There will be heavy investments. And for me as a PhD student, initially I thought, no, let's just see, let's see what the response is like. So it was a very simple low-cost tool that was created. and it was given to teachers, parents, employers. And then after a month, we checked with them. Do you know some basic sign language? They said yes. So the conversation started, right? Then we took it to PDF, Pacific Disability Forum, and we had a greater access, a wider access. And then after 1 year, we saw that the inclusion rate was indeed increasing. So if I could tell you in a nutshell, the 3 types of assistive technologies that we could use, or assistive devices. So one is a no-tech, and a no-tech can be something as simple as a wheelchair. Then you've got something that is a low-tech, which would be a very simple device. It could be something that's already integrated into your Windows or your MacBook, something that just translates your speech, your speech to text, and vice versa, right? So those was basically some low-tech devices. Then, of course, there are some high-tech devices like late Professor Stephen Hawking's chair. Anyone has ever observed or the type of chair that he was using? So Professor Stephen Hawking, the late Professor Stephen Hawking, was one of the most prolific speakers ever. But the interesting thing here is he barely spoke with his voice. There were just 1 or 2 muscles that moved, which instructed his chair to translate his thought processes into speeches, right? So going back to 13.7%. Now, is there anyone here who could tell us about what the stat would be in the Pacific? How many persons with disabilities do you think we may have? Any guesses? Maybe somebody has Google? I'll give you a few seconds, and I've got some goodies from FNU. Anyone at all? 1.5 million. Do any of our Pacific Islands have that kind of population? In any of the countries? Yes? Which country? PNG? So that means the number of people we have in the Pacific Islands put together, those who have disabilities, and let's not forget there are many who don't declare them, right? So this means that in total, we have more than 1 million persons with disabilities in the Pacific Islands. So shouldn't that be enough for us as tech innovators to take up a lead role in creating assistive technologies? That means we are excluding more than 1 million people. And that is rather sad. A region that is so loving and caring and so empathetic. I felt that was rather sad. So with this particular approach, what I was just trying to do is try to understand out of the 3 categories of assistive technologies: no tech, where no special aid is required, light tech or low tech, and high tech. Example, Professor Stephen Hawking's chair. Which one would be more adaptable? And out of the devices that I had surveyed, I found out that a low tech device is more adaptable. Remember, you can have the state-of-the-art technology, but what's more important is the impact you are creating on ground. If you're not able to convert, those who are not digitally included, you can't convert them from that state to someone who is part of the global internet, then we are failing somewhere. With so much technology, with us speaking about technology for the last 6 years, at least, this is our 6th conference, I feel that we need to start having some investments into the area of assistive technologies. So my current work at the moment, before I'd go further, I just wanted to tell you just a few things that I was trying to find out. Accessing services like community restaurant, home delivered meals, homebound shopping. Part of this research was during COVID, right? Information centers, customer service assistance, a government website, citizen-centric services, social media websites, bus concessions, education concessions, national events such as Eid on the Park in Fiji, Diwali Mela, and Fiji Day. If we are talking about an inclusive country, but the fact remains that our people who have disabilities, they cannot access these services, they cannot access these national events. So we are talking about inclusion, but honestly speaking, we need to do some self-check, right? So that was what I found out. And that was a very basic study, to be honest, just to find out if I spend the next 5 years in trying to create some inclusion tool, will it be worth it? Will it be accepted? Because my primary concern was not really the money. It was more to do with, am I going to be able to include our people? For example, in Italy, the inclusion rate for anyone who is blind or has vision impairment is close to 100%. They do not walk with another person. They do not walk with any separate person who's going to guide them to walk around. That is how the infrastructure, the systems, the policies are around in Italy, right? Anyway, so that was my first chapter. My second chapter was basically trying to find out if something which we see is a huge problem in the Pacific, NCDs. Yes, we have been told many, many times that we have a national problem of NCDs. What about in Samoa, PNG, Tonga? Is it the same? Do we also get to hear the same thing? Yes. So NCD, what does NCD mean? Youth fellows? Please speak up. Non-communicable diseases. Example? Example? Diabetes, type 1, type 2, high blood pressure. Okay, so I'll give you another staggering statistic. One amputation happens in Fiji in every 8 hours. So if you multiply that, so an average of 3, right? 3 to 4. If you multiply that by the number of days in a year, I can tell you in confidence that that number is not added to the 13.7. Okay? So I tried to introduce the angle of agriculture 4.0 to our farmers who have lost a limb due to NCDs. So long story short, we were trying to investigate the state of agriculture and technological knowledge in Fiji. And the study involved persons with disabilities, particularly those with amputations who were in the agricultural sector. We did a review of Internet of Things to cultivate the interest of younger generation in farming and agriculture. And we introduced the concept of agriculture 4.0. Majority of the persons that we spoke to, our focus group, our surveys, and after using all the algorithms to compute the data we were working with, we were able to find out that in Fiji, of course, at least 40 to 50% of our population is classified as youths, okay? And when we spoke to their parents who were tenured farmers, they were, of course, greatly contributing to the national GDP, right? Their parents didn't quite want them to go into agriculture and farming. So, of course, that leaves a question of food security for us in the future. So we asked them some simple basic questions. So basically, I came up with 14 areas that I tried to research on. Chemical control, managing livestock, monitoring health issues of your livestock, irrigation monitoring, soil management, supply chain traceability, scouting land and crops, checking for weeds and spot treating plants, monitoring overall crop health, soil field analysis, seed planting, crop spraying, spot spraying, crop mapping, real-time livestock monitoring, vehicles and machinery control. So these were the 14 areas in which we saw that most of the farmers in the Pacific were engaged in. We also tried to do some realistic benchmarks with countries that had similar climate as ours. For example, Trinidad and Tobago has a very similar history in sugarcane as we do. But to be honest, in Trinidad, the quality of sugar has been dropping drastically. So when this study started, we started to talk to basically farmers, and they told us that we do not want our children to go and toil in the farms. So we spoke to the children, those who are now in university, young adults. And we told them that these 14 factors that we tell you about, if I could introduce an agricultural drone that can tick off at least 10 items out of these 14 items, will you be interested in taking up agriculture and farming? And the answer was an overwhelming yes. So out of this particular chapter, if I were to give you some key takeaways, we have proven that using inclusive technologies, we would not just be able to include our persons with disabilities, provide a support structure, create better inclusion spaces. We will also be able to have better food security. We will also be able to combat NCD-related issues. And of course, there's quite a lot, but I do not want to take any more time because I've got 2 other colleagues who will be speaking to you. So that is it from me today, and I'm happy to take on any questions. Vinakavakalevu.
Thank you, Swaran, for a very insightful presentation on assistive technologies and Agriculture 4.0. If you have any questions, please take note of them, and then we'll have a Q&A session after the speakers speak. Or you know what? I think because Swaran finished ahead of time, because she's given a presentation on both of her talks today, maybe we can have 10 minutes just a Q&A. If anyone has any questions to Swaran to expand on what she's shared with us today, we're open to get any questions. All right, the gentleman there.
Hi, Swaran. My name is Warren from InternetNZ. Great to talk about the assistive technology. This has been something I've been looking at personally since 1994. So have you looked at gaming devices and other devices that can help with learning? And also the low tech, that include the mobile phone. And if you are looking at mobile phones, what about digital literacy? Because there's the limitations there. And also, did you take into account the bias of the assumption they understood the local language? Because I know with hearing impairment, they speak differently to what the local dialects would be.
Thank you very much. Now, understand your question has at least 4 mini questions in it. Okay, so let's take the first one. You wanted to know if I have investigated anything to do with mobile gaming and as this inclusion tool?
Yeah, the reason why I asked about that is I was working on a project in 95 using the NES glove for doing the sign language interpretation and converting that to text.
Yep. Okay, yes, we have, in fact, I have another paper with one of my co-authors, my research partners, where we have used gamification to sort of address digital literacy issues. And there's also a scale, a digital literacy scale made particularly for the people of the Pacific. So any solution that my research group creates, it is Pacific centric. Now, in terms of digital literacy, there is a tool that we've been using it for the past 4 or 5 years. Unfortunately, I'll be very honest with you, it is used more in Europe than in the Pacific. There is greater demand. So I think, again, we do have some chronic problems of working in silos and, not having faith in Pacific academic work, right? So that's one part of it. My final product is basically going to be a set of classifiers. Like we do have the WHO one, right? And then there's the US IDEA Act, which classifies disabilities. Now, for example, if I were to use the US one, they have classified arthritis and diabetes as disabilities. Now, can you even imagine if we take this option up to our governments and say, hey, anyone with diabetes needs to be given concession? So that idea will definitely be rejected until such time that we can afford it. So we are now trying to create a set of Pacific-centric classifiers for disabilities. And then using that set of classifiers, we will start creating assistive technology that at a very basic level can tell employers how to include somebody who has autism. Or for a teacher, for a math teacher, how to do speed desking for somebody who has anything to do with learning disabilities. So we need to first of all try to find out what are we going to agree upon as a community, as a Pacific community, that these are indeed our inclusion issues. So that should be done by the end of the year. I'm currently working on getting the classifiers, which is pretty much like a framework. So once the device is ready, it's going to be free for anyone to be used in the Pacific. Thank you. Was there anything else you were asking? Sorry, you did ask a few other things.
Everyone else.
No worries. Thank you.
I'll talk to you later.
Of course.
I understand that you're looking at assistive technology, specifically targeting the disabled. I'm just wondering whether you've actually looked at the other components that would support that drive in terms of legislative frameworks as well as policies within organizations that would actually provide a basic infrastructure in order to build up on that. If there's a baseline across all Pacific Islands, because for example, at the Samoa Water Authority, we actually implemented a jet ski policy, which includes, this allowed us to employ a person in a wheelchair. But one of the things that we didn't account for was the facilities at work didn't accommodate for the particular. It's a futile exercise, so to speak.
Thank you. And I we need to have at least 2% of our employment quota, workforce quota, reserved for someone with disabilities. But the fact is there are very few organizations that employ persons with disabilities. So when we had part of National Training and Productivity Center, we are always in the industry talking to professionals from the industry, and they tell us quite frankly, Swaran, it's not that we don't want to include, we simply don't know how to. So having legislation is one thing, having the type of literacy, the type of accommodating environment is of course another thing. We have seen legislation, and to be honest, there's nothing concrete in the legislation that says you have to go and create technological provisions. It says provisions, right? In fact, there's quite a lot of legislation, and I'd be happy to speak to you on one-to-one to tell you exactly where is it entailed within the legislation. But employers do not really, see, the truth is employers don't even understand the legislation properly. And if you are supposed to be creating provisions, that word provisions is quite broad. Eh? Provision could be something as simple as having wheelchair access in the building. That provision can also be integrated in the OHS Act. We don't just have physical spaces, we have a lot of online spaces too, right? So I think first things first, we need to start working with the Constitution, also trying to see that there is consideration of all inclusive spaces and all digital spaces. So yes, we have considered that, and I've got some documents to show you. Of course, some work where we have definitely spoken to employers, supervisors across the Pacific. Most of our research is across the Pacific, where they have told us we want to comply. First of all, we don't know what the legislation requires us to do. And secondly, we don't know how to include them, which is why we came up to the conclusion that we need to start off with a very basic digital literacy tool, which is now done. And secondly, a tool that can just help them understand what is the disability and how I can include. And then the secondary step to that would be having some other avenues, which could of course be costly, but with the data that I currently have, it appears that most people want free resources. And that's what we're going to provide for this, for the first year. Thank you.
Sorry, just one more question, please. You mentioned that you use the stats from Fiji to extrapolate the justification for using assistive technologies to develop agriculture 4.0. I'm just trying to understand the logic behind that, because maybe tackling NCDs at the health level as opposed to using technology is a much better approach. And also the whole thing about education, I noticed that there's not that much digital literacy at the sort of the primary, high school, university level. When we get sort of the youth coming in, it's the level of literacy digitally is not there. So I'm just wondering whether our educational institutions are actually doing more to develop digital literacy within the Pacific. So there's digital literacy education, and there's attacking, other root causes as opposed to trying to fix the symptoms to develop a roadmap for agriculture 4.0.
Thank you. Now, if you recall from my previous statement, this is the second chapter where basically my first two chapters is all about convincing the right authorities that this is definitely something we must start considering. For example, agriculture 4.0 is all about IoT on the farms. It's started working in that area. I think it was 2019. And when I spoke to the organizations in Fiji that look after sugar, I will tell you very frankly, they weren't quite pleased. They literally told me you will go into farms and they will chase you away with the sugarcane kata. That's what they told me, right? But in 2020 came a time when agriculture 4.0 was very much needed for contactless farming. So this second paper looks into the different facets of using agriculture 4.0. So my idea of inclusion is that we should not make inclusion look like it's a favor. It is a fundamental human right, which is why we are, even for youths, the moment you glamorize farming, they start liking it. So this particular work, we have considered persons with disabilities, we have considered tenured farmers, we have considered issues of food security during COVID. So there are several angles to this particular research, because we want the impact to be greater than just for one particular sector. Not just for somebody with physical disabilities, right? There are quite a number of farmers who have lost a limb, and the interest for farming and agriculture just stops there. It doesn't continue. So does their legacy, right? Now, of course, digital literacy is a whole different conversation. We do have a session tomorrow with my colleagues, Eleanor and Ashutosh. We were part of the ITU Smart Islands project from 2022, and we have done some work in that area. We're also doing some work in digitalizing vocational trainings using VR kits. So I think you will be able to get lots of answers to your questions there. But at this stage, I do not want to take more time from my colleagues, please.
Thank you, Swaran. Thank you for the questions so far. If you have any further ones, we'll leave it to the end so we can move to the next two speakers, please. So our second speaker, just a brief introduction, is Sakaio Manoa, the Information and Communication Technology Manager for the Forum Fisheries Agency, or FFA, with nearly 2 decades of experience with key Pacific regional organizations. Sakaio is an expert in network and computer security. He holds a Master of Cybersecurity from Charles Sturt University and directs the technological architecture that underpins the FFA's monitoring, control, and surveillance framework, which is vital in the fight against illegal fishing. He will be speaking on the implementation of FFA SIEM that helps organizations detect, analyze, and respond to security threats. And he'll be speaking alongside our third speaker, Letitia Masea. Letitia is a respected ICT professional and regional cyber advocate from the Solomon Islands. Letitia currently serves as the Data Quality Officer at the Pacific Islands Forum Fisheries Agency, where she supports the agency's work in digital resilience and information security. With over 15 years of experience in the ICT sector, she has contributed extensively to cybersecurity, data governance, and regional capacity building. She's also the co-founder of Women in IT Solomon Islands, a grassroots initiative empowering women and girls through digital skills, mentorship, and career pathways in tech. She also sits on the advisory board of the Global Forum on Cyber Expertise and has served previously as board chair of the Pacific Islands chapter of the Internet Society. So I'd like to call up Sakaio and Letitia, please, to present. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And morning olketa, as we say in the Happy Isles. Thank you very much to our host, the Samoa IT Association, and of course, the NUS for the warm hospitality that has been extended to us. We thank you very much for having us this week. I would like to just run through a brief introduction for the sake of those who are not familiar with the acronym FFA. It's the Pacific Islands Forum Fisheries Agency, and we are based in Honiara in the Solomon Islands. So just to give you a brief information on what we do. Most people, when they see the word fisheries, they come to the conclusion that FFA is a fishing company. I'm afraid we are not. We don't do fishing, go out to the sea and fish. Actually, FFA is a regional organization, and we are mandated to provide technical advice to 17 member countries on how to manage their fisheries. So that's the role of FFA. So coming to the IGF, what is fisheries has to do with internet governance? Why are we here? I'll tell you. FFA, the fisheries industry in our region is not a $1 million industry. It's a $1 billion industry. And everybody, the 17 member countries, apart from Australia and New Zealand, we rely on these resources. If we mismanage, overfish, then the generation that's going to come, they will suffer because we didn't actually look after this valuable resource that we have. So for today, we are going to explore a critical pillar of modern cybersecurity, the security information and event management known as SIEM. As cyber threats continue to evolve in scale and sophistication, organizations need more than just firewalls and antivirus solutions. They need visibility. This is the key word, visibility. Real-time insights into what's happening across their networks, systems, applications. And that's where SIEM comes in. At this session, we will look at what SIM is. Of course, we will actually give you what that acronym, ICT is full of acronym, how it works, and most importantly, why it's become an essential tool for detecting threats, managing incidents, and maintaining compliance in today's digital landscape. Again, we'll be looking, the presentation is based from an FFA context, from the lens of FFA. Whether you're a decision maker, an IT professional, or someone just starting out in cybersecurity, we hope that you'll find this presentation both informative and practical. So let's dive in. So looking at the presentation, you see that it's actually talking about the FFA SIM, how we actually deployed the system. And you now, I hope that you now have realized why is FFA deploying this system. Because we are in a billion-dollar industry. We look after the members' data. So it's important that we actually deploy as many layers of security that we can to ensure that the members' data that has been given to FFA to look after as custodian is well protected. So we're looking at the SIM as strengthening security through centralized monitoring. For this presentation, we will be looking at what is SIM, the benefits of a SIM, why FFA deployed the SIM and EDR solution, how the FFA SIM and EDR works, identifying potential threats through analysis of malicious IP traffic, identifying potential threats through analysis. We'll give you some examples of the kind of reports that the SIM and EDR provides to us so that we are able to have some visibility on what the users are doing on their end user devices. And of course, the last part will be lesson learned. Going forward, I will now invite my colleague, Letitia, to present to you the next slide. Thank you.
So briefly, what is a SIM? As Sakaio mentioned, it's security information and event management. It's a cybersecurity system that collects, centralizes data from various network devices and endpoints. It's a system that analyzes and correlates data to detect threat, generate alerts, assist in incident responses. So from an FFA point of view, again, some of the benefits of SIM is centralized threat detection and operational efficiency. SIM collects logs and event data across network, such as firewalls, servers, endpoints, and applications, and it correlates them to detect anomalies. Another benefit is faster in incident response. As we all know, time is critical in cybersecurity. So SIM helps to detect breaches earlier, often before serious breaches occur. This enables quick responses and containment. And the last point we have here was advanced analytics and threat intelligence. Modern SIM use machine learning and behavioral analysis to detect unknown or emerging threats. It can also ingest intelligence feeds, giving you context-aware security alerts or deeper insights. So these are some of the benefits of SIM and what SIM is. Now, after I've gone through the two difficult slides of this presentation, I'm going to hand it back to Sakaio to talk about why FFA deployed this solution and the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lady, for passing the buck to me. All right, moving on to the next slide. we'll be looking at why FFA deployed a SIM solution. As you know, FFA, we get a lot of data, and we need to gain some visibility into the network, the systems, applications that we use. So in order for us to gain some visibility, we need to actually gather the logs or collect the logs from different sources. And that will actually allow us to conduct some proactive threat detection, identifying anomalies and potential threats in real time. The second one, which I highlighted earlier, is enhanced log visibility. We are able to actually gain visibility on what's happening on the FFA infrastructure. We are able to actually know what's been done in terms of from the end user. So, and that will actually, with the logs being collected, we are actually able to see the automated alert mechanisms, utilizing automated systems to prioritize alerts based on severity, ensuring that swift action is taken if there is an incident. And the last one is to do with the consolidated security posture. We have to make sure that we answer to our members when they give us their data. We have to give them the confidence that FFA is able to protect their data. And that will actually be in the form of an integrated security framework, continuing data, combining data from different sources into a cohesive framework for enhanced monitoring. So moving on, what you see there, the diagram is a closely reflection of the system that we have at FFA. On your left-hand corner, that's the basis where the data is collected. On every end user, devices, servers, applications, we have what we call an agent that has been installed. And the job or the task of the agent is to collect the data. Collect the data, and the data goes to an integration server. And that's the SIM. So looking at step number one, collect data logs from multiple data sources. These logs captured key events and activities across the entire FFA infrastructure. Of course, when the logs have been collected, they have to be normalized into a format where the analysis will be a lot easier. That's where you're looking at step two. With step three, the logs are passed and they've been enriched. Why? Because the logs has to provide meaningful information. And that's where you get the extraction of key data, such as the IP addresses, the timestamp, and event types. Then comes the interesting part. Applies the correlation rules and threat detection. Note, when a SIM triggers a correlation rule, it generates an alert for potential threat. Alerts are prioritized by severity, with critical ones handled first. So when a SIM triggers a correlation rule, for instance, like the installation of an unauthorized software or application, it actually generates an alert. And if now we looking at step 5, alert generation and prioritization. That alert is actually sent to the SOC team. The SOC team doesn't sit with FFA. We don't have the resources. We don't have the capacity. So it's actually sitting somewhere. I'm not going to tell you where, but they're sitting somewhere. So their job is actually to look at what's been the alerts that's coming through from FFA. Then the rules based on the severity of the alert, they will actually either do an automation using SOAR to actions, block the IP address. So those are the kind of actions that they normally do. Then the interesting part comes, it's when we get the reports. This is basically, I will show you in the next slide or two, the kind of reports that we will be getting. The detailed report that allows an IT person to actually say, yes, I know this user. No, I don't know this user. But they were actually doing some activities that actually triggered the correlation rule. And the final one is the continuous monitoring and improvement. We need to ensure that the rules that have been set actually meet the requirements of the organization. What were we looking at protecting? Moving on to the next slide, identifying potential threats through the analysis of malicious IP traffic. Of course, you have to do analysis to be able to actually do threat detection. Employing advanced techniques to examine IP traffic patterns, identifying malicious activities and potential breaches. Of course, you have to do correlating IP traffic with threat intelligence. You need this. So this is where normally AI will come in. Just imagine the millions of excuse me. The millions of log that's being analyzed. Oh, God, I've lost my voice. Being analyzed. So you need AI to actually do the job for you, because if you depend on human, it will actually take months, years. With the use of AI, it will take a couple of seconds or minutes. So integrating threat intelligence feeds to enrich log data, improving threat detection capabilities against known malicious IPs. Of course, looking at the proactive threat migration strategies, that's where from here is where you improve the threat mitigation strategies, developing strategies to preemptively block malicious traffic based on identified patterns, enhancing cybersecurity posture. Now, moving on to the next slide, identifying potential threats through analysis. These are the kind of information that we're getting. In terms of, if you look at I just add the color coding, the yellow, the severity is medium. That means the system has sent this alert as it's not that high alert. But what I want you to focus on is the details. The information that is coming through that allow staff at FFA, the IT staff, to actually look at this information and say, what's happening? Are people downloading unauthorized software? Are they running applications that they're not supposed to run? So these are the kind of information, and that's where I go back to my first point, visibility. If you don't have visibility in your system, if you can't get visibility into what's happening in your system, then you can't protect it. So looking at the last one, the malware prevention alert, the severity is high. So those are the kind of information that we are actually getting out of the system. And it really helps us to actually monitor what's happening on our network. Glad to say this is my final slide. Lessons learned. A good SIEM system is a crucial investment in cybersecurity because it provides real-time visibility, detection, and response to threats across organizations' IT infrastructure. However, one of the biggest misconceptions in cybersecurity is that installing a SIEM magically makes your environment safe. Is that right? But the reality is a SIM is only as effective as the data, tuning, and management behind it. The statement, a SIM is only as effective as data, tuning, and management behind it, highlights a critical truth about security, information, and event management SIM systems. They don't deliver value on their own. Their effectiveness depends heavily on the three key factors: data quality, the tuning, and ongoing management. A well-deployed SIM is not a set and forget tool. Its value comes from continuous effort, feeding it the right data, tuning it to minimize noise and maximize detection, and managing it actively to stay aligned with business and security needs. Without that, even the most expensive SIM can become an ineffective or even misleading investment. With those remarks, thank you very much for listening.
Oh, you'll have to adjust this again. Thank you. Yep. Oh, I set my timer and it came on, so you finished perfectly on time. Well done. Okay, great. Thank you, Sakaio and Letitia, for a very insightful presentation. We learned about the security information management system at FFA and the importance of it in enhancing cybersecurity in the region, especially for our key economic sectors like fisheries that Mr. Manoa mentioned is very critical to the Pacific Islands. All right, so that wraps up our presentation for this session. We can now open the floor to any questions you may have. I learned a lot, so I'm pretty sure you have plenty of questions to ask as well. Yes, got a question in front?
Thank you very much for that presentation. I'm just wondering what kind of resourcing you've had to put behind it in terms of staff. So you obviously got internal staff that are managing the tool and tuning it, and then it sounds like you've got an outsourced SOC or security operations center. But what is your internal staff resourcing for that project?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Yeah, we at the team, we only have like 8 people running the whole show for the FFA. We share responsibilities when it comes to this type of project. So normally I take the lead, but I also have other engineers, 1 engineer and 1 developer who we share the responsibilities when it comes to, so the reports, they normally comes to me. So that's when I look at the report, and if something that I need to elevate it to the network engineer or the developer to look at, then I will actually advise them on based on what has come through. If it's a extremely high alert, the SIM team will actually call us in the middle of the night, the early hours of the morning. They will do that because they want to make sure that we give the final say on what needs to be done. So with the team of 8, the 3 of us are the main contact for any alerts that needs to come to the attention of the team. But that's how we manage the project.
Like, how often do you have to do something out of hours?
It depends. If you look at I normally get probably if the users have that curiosity, trying to go into things that they're not supposed to, then we get the alerts every now and then. Even if we don't advise the SOC team that we are installing a software, and we tested them through by installing the software without telling them. And then we got a call. I got a call from one of the engineers saying, we saw an activity that we actually, because it's a Nessus, which is a vulnerability scanning, and it's a lot of traffic. So they saw that and say it must be an attack, but then they realized that it's a NAS being installed. So but they actually call us to confirm whether we've actually installed the software or something that actually been attacked and they install the software. So that's the kind of we get into.
Sakaio, hi, Alex from National Bank. I've got a question around this software, the SIEM software. Is this open source or is it a paid solution?
Yeah, so the SIEM solution that we're using is Elastic. So I believe it's open source. So we actually pay a subscription that also includes the service that they provide. But on top of that, they also provide the SOAR service, which included I didn't actually show that on the diagram, but that's also part of the service that they provide to us as part of the.
Another question I have is around, I guess your cost for providing security has gone up. So per user, what has that? I mean, what would be the expectation in terms of increasing cost per user, roughly?
Yeah, so I think I also need to tell you that, my other hat, I do a lot of negotiation. So one of the things that I actually negotiate with the vendor is to give us a fixed price. So regardless whether the number of users devices that we deploy in the network, the cost is a fixed cost.
Thank you.
Talofa, and thank you very much to the panel for your presentations. I have two questions. One will be directed to Swaran about assistive technology. And my second question will be directed to Sakaio and Letitia regarding the SIM system. So the first question in terms of assistive technology, it's great to be reminded and hear about the data regarding the people with disabilities across the Pacific. I'm wondering though, how the Pacific IGF Forum can launch a movement towards our governments in ensuring that as we are designing and looking at implementing assistive technology that fits the Pacific context, so must the infrastructure follow hand in hand. Will there be a recommendation coming out of the Pacific IGF that speaks towards this in terms of advocating towards our Pacific governments? My second question is to Sakaio. I'm very interested in the change management of when the SIM system was implemented throughout the FFA agency. What was the process like and the time frame in terms of building the capacity and the capabilities of not only your team, but also ensuring that awareness across the agency about SIM is implemented? Because as you mentioned in your presentation, SIM is only effective behind good data tuning and management. So I would be interested in learning more about what your change management was like in terms of introducing SIM into the agency. Thank you.
Thank you. So if I could just recall your questions, it's around data governance. If Pacific IGF is going to be looking into data governance, sorry. Do you mind repeating the question, please? Mine, just mine.
Right. Basically, can this platform be used as a mechanism to leverage towards governments in terms of it's all well and good for us to design and implement assistive technologies for our people with disabilities, but if governments don't actually enforce the existing legislatives and improve upon the governance in terms of infrastructure to go hand in hand with the design of assistive technology. Is there a recommendation that's going to come out from this forum to leverage an advocacy towards specific governments?
Yes, definitely. So if I could tell you, in a nutshell, what happens in the IGF forums, for example, the Asia Pacific Internet Governance Forum, right? So we've got sessions, then we've got abstracts, and basically a write-up on every session. And then that document is like every afternoon we meet and there's a town hall session where everybody has, an opportunity to speak about any of the sessions throughout the day. And then that document is synthesized. It's called the synthesis document. There's a drafting committee that goes through it, and then it is submitted to the United Nations and many other stakeholders for that matter. Now, from there, there's a lot of changes that is directed towards the different economies that are present. Pacific IGF is, I'm not going to say we're 100% at the moment, but I am part of the Pacific IGF committee, and we've got some good members. We've also got some youth fellows this year. For the first time, we've got the Pacific Youth Internet Governance Forum fellows, and we've also got our senior fellows as well. So we are hoping that our fellows can come on board and help us with this work, because there's only a handful of us who are working behind the scenes. So definitely we would like to benchmark the practices of APNIC for the Pacific, but when I say benchmark, it has to be more Pacific-centric, right? There's another point I'd like to make here. So before I became an academic, I was actually a network engineer. And one of the reasons why I became an academic is because when you have academic work, you have the power to change legislation. Not just through academic work, of course, with lots of other stakeholders, right? But then if I say something just over my head, then it's, of course, it's subjective, right? We need to have objective information, objective data, and we need to be able to, process the data in a way that is palatable for every stakeholder. So we do hope that through the research work and, of course, through the many, many sessions that we've had, there's a lot of good information. We hope that they can be transformed into some actionable items for the economies and the governments involved. Thank you.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but I forgot your question. Can you repeat you? Right.
In short, what was the change management process like when the SIM system was introduced into the FFA agency?
Thank you very much. With FFA, I think somebody here might correct me. We are the only crop agency with a 207/2022 ISO certification. So with that, if you look at one of the controls in the ISO 271, is to do with change management, and we follow what has been provided in that ISO 271. And the reason being, because if the auditors come and do the audit and we are not in compliance, then they will actually put something on the document with something like non-conformative. So that's the process that we go through. We follow what the standard requires us to follow. So the answer to your question, yes, we follow a process that has been given in the ISO 271, which is a standard. Hope that answers your question. Thank you.
And if I may, if I'm correct, you also asked what the change management process was like in implementing the CIEM. So if you could maybe talk about that and what the timeframe was like in terms of capacity building and resourcing and making that successful for FFA.
Yeah, so if I gather the question correctly, with the ISO 271, we do a lot of things so that we remain certified. And one of the controls that's provided in the ISO 271 is to ensure that any changes that be introduced, it needs to be made aware to all staff. And we do that through the trainings that we normally do for, we run training for cybersecurity awareness for all staff. And on top of that, we also use a platform, the InfoSec, where all users, they enroll in that platform, and they will be able to actually do the small training. It's more like in information-based training where they actually given guidance on how to take full responsibility looking after the assets of the organization. But when it comes to change management, like I said before, we actually follow what's in the ISO 271 in that control space. Hopefully that will answer your question.
Before lunch, can I ask a question? You guys want to add?
Sorry, could we get a question from the fellows first, the Youth IGF fellows, and then we'll come.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. It's very informative for us. I just have one question for the FFA SIM. The system that you have, you mentioned that it was elastic or it was open source. I was just wondering if it allows for modifications, say maybe in the near future, if your requirements change, or maybe there's some changes in the near future. Does this system allow modification to fit your needs, the needs of the FFA? Yes, or yeah, if it allows that, or maybe it has been done and you guys have implemented it. If you can share that, it's just something I'm interested in knowing. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. As you know, open source software, they're not proprietary software like Microsoft, where you are not allowed to make any modification to the software. But with the Elastic being open source, you can actually do modification. But for us, we don't tap into the space because it's something that's already been built for us. So what we normally do, if there are requirements, business requirement, FFA requirements that needs to be addressed, we will actually work with the vendor to look at those requirements, and they will actually build, test, then modify the solutions so that will actually meet the requirement of the FFA, the organization. So that's basically the process that we go through.
All right, we'll have one question online as well. This is for Sakaio. Your presentation has been very interesting, so everyone's asking you a lot of questions around the SEIM system. The question from Philimoni is, considering the budget constraints faced by many Pacific nations, what would be the estimated cost of implementing a system similar to the one used by the FFA? Additionally, how does an organization begin the process of developing or adopting it? I think you talked about the fixed cost that you've negotiated, but maybe you can elaborate.
Well, thank you very much for the question from the online user. I can't actually speak for other government ministries, but from a fisheries point of view, if there is a member that is interested in the solution, because we are actually providing assistance to the members, we will actually consider, given that the member has the resources in terms of the people, the skills set they have to be able to actually run the solution. But for other ministries, like government ministries, I think it's out of our jurisdiction, because our mandate is for fisheries. And we provide the technical assistance both in terms of the advice to fisheries management, but also the technical side in terms of IT to fisheries. Yeah, so the last part of your question, the process of developing, adopting such a system, as I mentioned, we are actually running $1 billion industry, and that is a very, very valuable resource for the Pacific. So looking at that alone, you need to ensure that the system that we put in place, and at the national level in terms of fisheries national administration, they have to ensure that the systems, so that the systems are put in place to ensure that the security of the data is well protected. So adopting that is based on our requirements, the members' requirements. So if the members decided that they need something, like for instance, putting an AI system that will allow them to do some of their work, that's something that we will actually consider. But the process, it has to go through the FFC Council for it to be FFA to take it up. I think it's lunch.
Okay, thank you. As representatives of the youth of the National University of Samoa and also the Ministry of Education and Culture, we would kindly like to ask Mr. Sakaio, based on the SIM, what type of data sources are commonly integrated with SIM? How does SIM differ from other regular log management tools, and can it detect insider threats, please?
Thank you very much for the question. I think I'll probably just need to put up the slide because that will actually answer your question. Yeah, normally the fear that members actually see when they look at some kind of system like this is they say, why is our data being sent somewhere else when it's supposed to be in-house? But as you noticed from the presentation, it's the logs. It's not the data where your documents or contracts or financial statements. It's actually, the system is actually collecting the logs. And the logs, if you look at the diagrams, like here, you see there are a number of steps. There are a couple of steps missing from this diagram, but basically this is how it works. So it actually collects the data and then start integrating with other components of the system that they've actually put together to allow the logs, which if you look at it, is actually the raw data, to be interpreted in a way that it's more meaningful. So when it comes to us, like the reports that I showed you, it makes perfect sense because it gives you all the details of the IP address of the machine. For me, I would actually know who the user is and what he or she has been doing. Not to intimidate them, but in a sense that we are actually protecting to ensure that we have visibility into the infrastructure. But that's basically how the system works. It collects the logs, not your personal information. It's just the logs.
regarding cyberbullying and the linkage to Pacific Islands and the youth, just want your opinion. Do you think that the security info and event management will be the best solution if you were to install it to all the Pacific Island nations?
Thank you very much. Like I said, I only deal with fish.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, I think there are some discussion or avenues where you can actually raise this question. But I agree, as I mentioned to our group yesterday, cyber safety is not an IT responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility. So if you think and start pointing fingers at your IT and saying you're responsible for this, think twice. It's cyber safety is everybody's responsibility. Cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility. That's why we're here, to make sure that we've got the same understanding across the board. We help each other. You just don't point the finger to IT as the one looking after your network. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, before I come to you, just to respond to you, tomorrow will be the perfect time for you to ask that question because the first session is on digital safety. So, for example, we'll hear on Australia's approach to online safety. And then after that, at 11:30, we'll have a group discussion on safe online behavior, et cetera. So that will be a great place for you to ask that question. Yes, we've got a question from our friend here.
Thank you. I'm from Bywatchers. We are a AI startup in Samoa. My question is towards disability. I think there are many challenges when it comes to digital for disability, as well as the mainstream. One of them is language. Language is one of the hardest things because you're trying to convert everything online to a particular language that fits the community or the context of a country. Like for example, Samoa has Samoan on Google, but that's not really well translated in the grammatical forms. I was wondering if your research had covered any areas where AI adoption was AI adoption in terms of stimulating disability market developments on digital platforms. Because one of the issues that we still have with digital is accessibility. And most times, I'm not sure if government are looking at allowing disability to have free data plans, which could allow them to actually learn more about the internet. But I wanted to gauge your understanding around, is there enough stimulation in the Pacific to build a digital market for AI towards disability growth in terms of enhancing the era of AI?
Thank you. You know, your question makes me think of at least 5 different angles to approach it, you know. The first one that I can think of right now is actually not part of my PhD research, but there was one book chapter that I wrote on APO, Asian Productivity Organization. So Fiji is a member. So there were 13 countries that research actually happened in. And what we were essentially doing was trying to measure the productivity of the informal sector in those countries. And you will see the predicaments of Fiji was quite contrary to the rest of the Asian region. And of course, there's many underlying factors. But if you have the time to read that chapter, I'm happy to share that information with you. You will see that there is quite a significant representation of the persons with disabilities who are part of the informal sector. So you can see some interesting relationships there, which go right back to inclusion and right back to the policies and lots of other underpinning issues. So in terms of using AI, not just AI, but I'll try to address the one on the question on languages first, right? So most of the projects we are doing, including these 2 chapters we spoke about, and including the ITU Smart Islands project, the digital literacy toolkit that we've created, all of them have the local languages in it. So there's English and there's at least 2 other languages in it. So for example, there's another one that we're about to start with ADB. It's on utilizing virtual reality to transform Tibet programs. And one of them is in fact a program for agriculture. You probably know Honorable Lenora Ngeretambua. She was the famous voice of Fiji. So I've got Eleanor Naivalu here, who will be the person who's going to be doing the translations. So we'll be using all local languages in all the solutions we'll be creating. And if you don't know Eleanor, she's there. Can you please raise your hand? Yeah, she's also one of the Pacific Fellows. So she will be the person who's going to be responsible for the translations and the voiceovers. All the storyboards we'll be using will have all local languages, at least 3 major local languages, including English, Fiji Bat, and Ituke. We're also going to incorporate the Rotuman language. Now, these are 3 projects that I'm talking about. Now, in terms of using AI, no, sorry, let me go back to the very first solution. The one where we try to digitalize actually the very first solution that I spoke about, right? Which was for the deaf and hard of hearing, the sign language tool. That has 2 dialects. One is the normal Bawan dialect in Fiji, and there's another dialect that's used in the north part of Fiji. Now, that particular solution was, well, it can be used for the Pacific, but it isn't completely customized with all the other languages of the Pacific. Once we see that there's more demand for it, we will be, we'll need to have other Pacific partners who can help us with that. So I'm happy to have more conversations with you on that. The final part of my product, which is going to be the final PhD product, I'll definitely consider that, because we've got our data set is across the Pacific. So there wouldn't be just Fiji Bat, Ituke, and English, right? We'll also have the Pacific languages. But yes, I can't do this alone. So if there's somebody here who can help me with it, please. And it can also mean, of course, you can also take part in the surveys. That's also a huge challenge. There is a component of qualitative research. We have to prove to the stakeholders that this is worth the while. I hope that answers your question. Sorry, before I give the mic away, I just wanted to revisit one of the previous questions. So there was a question about the uptake of the solutions and the policy recommendations for the governments of the Pacific. If I refer to the Industry 4.0 research, I have met with some stakeholders, including the British High Commission, where we had a roundtable discussion, and basically I was trying to convince them that it is now time for us to start giving loans for technology. Not just monetary loans, and this is particularly directed to the banks. I know there's a few here. So we've been trying to convince the banks that if you have enough information, if you can empower the farmers, anyone in the agricultural sector, that there is a device that can give you simple field soil analysis. So you have enough data to decide whether I'm going to continue planting sugarcane on this same land. It may or may not be futile efforts. Or we could go and explore some other type of commodity, maybe a millet or peanuts in dry land. Okay, so there's enough technology to tell you that no, this is no longer ready for sugarcane. You might want to wait 6 months, get the nutritional content up higher. You have a choice. At least you have the liberty of choice, right? So whether you do that or whether you go and plant peanuts or millet or something else. Right? So when you have that sort of intelligent system in your hand, a very basic system that can help you make these intelligent decisions, informed decisions, then you have enough information to go to the banks and say, hey, I need to buy a technological device. I need to invest in a farm bot. I need to invest in something that is, IoT related in the farms, rather than us just, giving loans on commodities that may or may not be fruitful. So that is one way in which we can start convincing the stakeholders to, take up these technologies or start funding these technologies. So farmers will no longer just be taking money to just, the regular conservative methods that they may have been using, but they can also start investing in technology. Thank you.
All right, great. Okay, we will have one final question and then we'll have to wrap it up because it's 1 p.m. and I'm sure everyone's starving to go for lunch. Could we have the mic at the back? One more question at the back. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. This question is for Mr. Manoa of FIFA.
Today.
Can you help us understand the integration process? How long is this integration process if we decide to integrate with SIM? My second question is, in terms of systems requirements or systems capability, is this elastic SIM compatible with other versions of Windows and other versions of servers? And my last question is, what makes SIM or the elastic SIM that you speak of different from firewalls infrastructure? Some firewalls also handle threat detection or intelligence and also automations, as well as visual that you speak of. It can also, some firewalls also generate reports, and that's all.
Thank you very much. That's actually a mouthful. I will actually, you need to remind me of what you asked because I've got a very short memory, running out of RAM. If I recall, you were asking about the integration with the solutions that we deployed. The main part of it, when it comes to the collection, is the version of the EDR, which is the elastic agent that is sitting. It has a Linux version. It has a Windows version. It has a Mac version. So all this, depending on your environment, the solution is able to actually install an agent that will actually do the job, which is collecting the data. And once that data is collected, the rest of the how it comes to work, it is all automated because it's comes through. The only part that will actually, based on the correlation rules that I've actually mentioned, the only part that will actually come in is when there is a high alert that the team will actually need to contact us to provide them with the agent. Just for your information, the agent will actually, if you try and install something like an application, the agent will be able to actually shut it down if actually the rules that has been put there has been to do that, and it will actually do it. So putting this together, it depends on how much you want to pay and how fast you want it to operate or to become active. So for us, it took us a week after we've done all the assessment and looking at the various options or solutions out there. We look at first the capabilities of the solutions. I know other solutions, they also have that, but we also look at the other components, the cost, and the ability of the SIM team to actually give us the information that we need. So those are the three ones that we actually consider. So whether you like Italian pizza or Fiji pizza, it's still a pizza. The thing is, like, it depends on your requirements and how much you're willing to pay to be able to get that service.
Okay, great. I think the rest of your questions, you'll have to meet with him afterwards to then answer, because we need to close up the session. It's been a very insightful session so far with interesting perspectives shared and very interactive with a lot of questions we've had. So to close up, we learned about the need for assistive technologies to ensure that people living with disabilities are not excluded from the internet and the use of tech. We've had a few call to actions. One of them is to get governments to pass and enforce legislation that ensures that appropriate systems and infrastructure are deployed to support people living with disabilities so they get access to critical services that all of us have access to. And then that could go into what Swaran mentioned, a synthesis document that usually comes out of the Asia Pacific Regional Governance Forum, so we can have key movements that we want documented to be included and passed on to the global IGF and onto the United Nations for concrete steps to be taken. And then finally, we learned about the interesting world of security information management systems, and particularly what the FFA is doing with the implementation of the SIEM. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to meet with our speakers at lunch and to pick their brains further. Before we go off, we have gifts for our speakers. So we'd like to thank you for coming and sharing your perspectives at the forum here. Please give them a round of applause. Do I get a gift as well? All right, great.